found this glass teapot. I knew exactly what I wanted to turn it into. We're going to turn it into a candle holder, but I want it up a bit on a bit of a pedestal. So I also picked up this glass candle holder. We are going to use some E6000. I have a love-hate relationship with E6000. Love the product, dislike the packaging. It is horrible to get it out of this tube, but it does work well once you get it figured out. And we're just gonna put it around the rim here. And then I'm gonna take, because we want it to be sturdy, I'm gonna take my hot glue gun and I'm just gonna put a couple dabs of that hot glue, just maybe one here and one here, just to hold it in place while we wait for that E6000 to dry. And we're gonna take our teapot and we're gonna center it right in, we're gonna take the lid off here. I'm gonna center it right in the middle. And then we're gonna set it aside and we're gonna let it dry overnight before we make it into a candle. So we'll be back in a bit. To turn this into a candle, I picked this candle up at the thrift store and we're just gonna melt it down. I have a pot of hot water we're heating up and I'm just using a tin can. Actually, before we put this in the water, what I like to do with these tin cans, I like to just squeeze them a little bit, give them a little bit of a spout. So when we're pouring out the wax, it goes easier. And we're just gonna put the candle in here and we're gonna let that hot water do its magic and melt that wax. And then we're going to put it in the teapot. We're boiling away and that candle is melting. We're almost there. It takes a few minutes and this is a really thick candle. So just be really careful. You got some hot wax going on here. And I love using a little saucepan, putting a tin can in it. It keeps it all in one spot and you're not ruining a pot. And we always have lots of tin cans that we can upcycle and use for this project. Our candle's completely melted now, and we also have the wick in there. We're gonna reuse that wick. So I'm gonna pull that out. We're gonna take our saucepan off our burner. Be really careful. And we're going to take our wick, and I've got a wooden skewer. I'm just gonna wrap it around a couple times. And just kind of, we want that wick to just be touching the bottom of that glass. So I'm just rolling it along that skewer until it's the right length. I think that looks perfect. Now we're gonna take this tin can. And this is where that spout comes in really handy. It makes it really easy to pour. I'm going to be really careful with that hot wax and just gently pour it in to our teapot. And the nice thing about this little teapot is you can see through it, so you can see the candle. We're going to make sure we've got our wick exactly where we want it, right in the middle. We're gonna set this aside and we're gonna let it harden up. How gorgeous is this? It's all set up. We just have to cut our wick and put it in a special spot to light it and enjoy it. I remember in the 90s, anyone that celebrated their 25th anniversary or their 50th or their 60th, you always went and you bought them a piece of china that had the words on it, 50th anniversary. And then what do you do with it? I'm going to show you how I'm going to take this beautiful plate that has a beautiful floral around the inside, and we're going to turn it into a tiered tray too, but we're going to be able to cover that 50th anniversary. I found this candlestick holder and it's white, the same color as the plate, and it actually covers the lettering. So we can glue this on, and then I found this beautiful oval tray. We can put that on top. We've created a beautiful tiered tray on a 50th anniversary plate that other words would have just sat in the thrift store and nobody probably would have picked it up. So let's glue this together. This is a really cheap teapot that I see all the time in thrift stores, and they were usually used in a cafe or a restaurant, and we're going to transform it into something really cute. The first thing that I think I want to do is I want to take this lid off. It's just on a simple little hinge, and I think if I get a pair of pliers, I can pull it off. We're going to see if we can. Okay, the lid actually came off quite easy. There was just like a little pin here, and we just had to pull it open, and now it's nice and flat. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna paint this with a flat black spray paint, and then we're gonna do a image transfer onto a piece of fabric and put it on this teapot. It's gonna have a real kind of primitive country look when we're all finished. Now, while we're waiting for that black paint to dry, we're gonna do an image transfer onto fabric. I have a piece of cotton and I have an image that's in my graphic club. Very primitive kind of country feel. If you are a member, you can go and you can grab it right now and you can craft with it. Or if you want to join, the link will be down below in the description. We add graphics every week. There's so many fantastic ones. And I printed this off on a label sheet. This is a really fun transfer method. You can use old CD labels, address labels, anything that's got that shiny paper underneath. You can print on it. Now, I have printed this off on my laser printer. I find that works the best. You can use an inkjet printer, but it has a tendency to kind of want to smear a little bit, so you have to be really careful if you're using that method. And where you don't want to touch it, you don't want to rub any of that toner off. So we're just going to, let's find a spot so we don't waste a lot of fabric. We're just going to cut a piece a little bit bigger than that graphic. Now we're going to use our Mod Podge mat, and you want to put the Mod Podge right on the fabric. And you want to use a fabric that's going to be absorbent, and it's going to take on that Mod Podge and soak into it, because we want it to grab onto that fabric and also grab onto the graphic so we can do a really good transfer. And that looks about right. We're going to take our graphic, being very careful. And I have reversed this graphic. You want to make sure that you're reversing the text. If not, when you lay it down, your words are going to be backwards. We're going to set that right where we want it. Just very gently pat it down into that wet Mod Podge. You don't want that Mod Podge to dry. And then I like to use my brayer and just lightly go over that image. And then you want to set it aside and you want to let it dry. It'll probably take about an hour. So we'll be back. If you find that the transfer isn't working all that well, you can always take an iron and set it on low heat and just press it just a little bit. That's going to make the toner adhere to the fabric better. Now here is the magic. We're going to peel off that label paper, and your image is going to be transferred to the fabric, and it's nice and it's crisp. And how cool is that? Now you might have bits and pieces that don't transfer all that well, but I think it just gives it some character. And then we're just gonna trim around the edges. Now I want to see if I can get a little bit of a frayed edge. I'm not sure if I can because of the Mod Podge. But yeah, I can a little bit. So I'm just going to fray the edge a little bit just to make it look like it's an old label. Just so it doesn't look so perfect. Okay, let's go grab our teapot and put this on it. Our teapot's all dry. Our image is ready to put on the teapot, and we're just gonna do it with some Mod Podge. And again, this is just for decor. It's not gonna be a usable teapot after this, but it's a really cute gift. We're just going to get that Mod Podge right out to the edge. And then let's just apply it to our teapot. Now, these aren't necessarily salt and pepper shakers, but they're little spice containers. And I always pick these up at the thrift store when I find them because there's so many ways that you can upcycle them. One way is we're gonna take the lid off. We're gonna get a piece of wood. Because this is a solid lid and we wanna drill a little hole in it, we can just take our drill a hole in a couple places in the top. Just like this. And now we've got 4 holes in the lid. And I'm going to show you what you can do with these. So now that we've got the holes in the lid, there's so many ways that you can use this. You can put sugar in it and use it as a sugar shaker, icing sugar, flour if you want to dust your countertop. You can put water in it and sprinkle it in your plants. I love to use this in the spring when I'm planting my garden. I have a little envelope of seeds, and these are really kind of tiny and they're hard to disperse. So I like to just take them, pour them in the bottle, and then you can put the lid on, take them out to your garden, and you can sprinkle them along, and they're going to evenly disperse better than just trying to do it with your hand and to sprinkle it. Now we have the other little spice jar, and I have 2 ways that I'm going to show you to upcycle this one. The first one is just take the lid off, and it's the cutest little bottle. Let's do some propagating. I'm going to fill it up with water. I have some clippings from my umbrella tree. We're going to put them in there, put it in the window, and use it as a little propagation station. And you can collect them and do all of your clippings in little salt and pepper shakers or in the little spice bottles. 2 brass candlesticks, 50 cents a piece. Yes, please. I love them. I'm going to clean them up, and I've got the perfect candles for them. I think they're going to look fantastic in my dining room. Finding teapots at the thrift store is really easy. I always see them all the time. And one of the easiest ways to upcycle these is to turn them into a flower arrangement. They make absolutely beautiful gifts for Mother's Day, birthday. If you find seasonal teapots for Christmas, you can add some floral foam. Now, this stuff I just picked up at the dollar store. It's really affordable. It's $2. And you want to just take your foam and cut it to fit the inside of your teapot. You can just use a knife or a utility knife And because the opening is a little bit smaller than the base, just cut it to size and stick them in there. And it's gonna fit in there nicely and be a nice base for those flowers. And it's also gonna hold water so your flowers will stay fresher longer. I'm gonna cut one more little piece here to sneak down in. Now you want to take this to your kitchen sink and wet this so it's nice and moist so we can put our fresh flowers in it. I've taken this to my kitchen sink and the floral form is nice and wet. If you put too much water on, of course, you can just pour it out the spout. I went to my grocery store. I picked up a beautiful bunch of fresh flowers. You can also just go to your yard if it's spring or summer and pick some fresh flowers from there. And you're gonna summon your inner florist and just start putting them in there however you think they're going to look the nicest. You can move them around if you need to. And that's really beautiful. And I think this would be a perfect gift. And it's affordable. You can usually pick these teapots up for a couple bucks a piece. Grab some fresh flowers or head out to your backyard if it's spring or summer and pick some and put together a floral arrangement with a teapot. I went in the comments and I was asking for a way that you guys use E6000 and don't have any problems with it. It's so hard to squeeze out of the tube. Overwhelming response, and I got some really great tips. The first one is to use a toothpaste tube key and push all of the E6000 up to the top. Game changer. You can pick these up at the dollar store. It worked fantastic. The other thing was the lid getting stuck on and off. Mineral oil. Use a little bit of mineral oil or Vaseline. Just put a little bit on your finger. Just rub it around the top. Put your lid on. It's not going to stick. So thank you so much for going into the comments and giving me some really great tips. So I can use E6000 and it's a little bit more enjoyable. Now let's use a salt and pepper shaker as a riser. I have this beautiful crystal dish and another little glass bowl. We're going to incorporate these all together. We're going to use our E6000 and we're going to put some on the bottom of the riser. Center it right in the middle of the bowl. That looks great. And then we're going to put some E6000 right around the rim. Put the lid on. It's not going to stick because we have that mineral oil on it. And we're going to center this little dish. Let's set it aside for 24 hours and I'll be back and I'll show you how to style this and how beautiful it is. I found these salt and pepper shakers at the thrift store, and as soon as I saw them, I was inspired because I knew what I wanted to do with them. Now, these are marked Japan, so they probably are a little bit collectible. I'm not going to alter them anyway. We're just going to add to them and make them more fun and whimsical. So I designed a package of 12 canning labels. I'll put the picture right here. They're available in my Etsy store. They're also in my Patreon graphic club. So if you are a member, you can go and grab those 12 canning labels right away and craft with them, or you can grab them in my Etsy store. All those links will be down below in the description. But I have designed this corn graphic, and I thought it was perfect for these salt and pepper shakers. So what we're going to do is I am going to cut out the graphic. I'm going to cut out the black border. I don't want that for this project. We're going to trim that right off. Perfect. I'm going to cut a piece of cardboard the same size as the graphic. Perfect. Now I'm going to paint this black. Both sides are painted black. We're going to get out our Mod Podge mat. We're going to put some Mod Podge on a piece of cardboard right out to the edge. And we're going to take our graphic. We're going to lay it right in there. We have a little bit of black peeking all around the edges. We're going to take a sprayer. We're going to press that down really well. Perfect. I have some ink. We're just going to go around the edges in case there's a little bit of white showing on that paper. There is a little bit. I love this group of 12 graphics. I've used them so much in all of my crafting. They have such that vintage kind of retro feel. Okay, so now we're just going to set that aside and let it dry. And we are going to now get a piece of wire. We're going to cut it about, we're going to measure it with the salt and pepper. So we want it about 1 inch above the top. We're going to cut that. We're going to kind of fold it in half. And we're going to take a big paintbrush and we're going to wrap it around. So we have 2 loops of the wire. Make sure it's formed really nice in the circle. And this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to wash my hands and we'll be right back. Okay, so now the perfect thing about this is they only have 2 holes. So we're going to put the wire through those 2 holes. And then we can just slip that graphic between the 2 wires. And how adorable is that? Of course, you can imagine the possibilities with this DIY for place cards, for table numbers, for a wedding, for seasonal decor, so many possibilities. And you can also use old photos. This one's fantastic to fool around with, and I absolutely love this corn graphic with this salt and pepper shaker. Another thing that we find all the time at the thrift store are the souvenir plates or teapots or teacups and mugs and saucers. This little plate is Niagara Falls, Canada, but it's kind of like outdated and not really sure where I would put it in my decor. So we're going to incorporate these 2 pieces together. Again, I've got a beautiful candlestick. We've got a little hanger on the back of this. It was probably hung up on a wall at some point. We are going to glue these two together, and then I'm going to spray paint it a beautiful gold color. I thought I had lots of gold spray paint, but I didn't have enough to do this project. So I found this mirror effect. It's beautiful, and it's going to give a really nice silver tint to the Niagara Falls plate. These are the cutest salt and pepper shakers, and they're really big. Missing the bottoms. Do not throw out the bottoms of other salt and pepper shakers that you upcycle, because this is exactly what you might need them for. I had one left over and it fits in here perfect, so I can use it to seal up this one. Now, this one has got a big crack in it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, so we're going to set this one aside. But this one here, we're going to turn into a flower frog. You just want to make sure you have some water on the top. The drill bit gets warm. We're going to enlarge the one hole. And there we have one hole drilled. It's a little bit bigger. There's lots of different size drill bits in here, so just pick out what you want. But I've got lots of surface here, so I'm going to put a few more holes, and I'll be back when it's all finished. We've got some holes drilled in the top, and it's going to make a beautiful flower frog. We're going to pour some water in it, and it has that stopper in the bottom now, so it should hold water, but I'll probably put a little saucer underneath just to hold the water in it and keep everything in place. And then you can just put your flowers in here. How beautiful is this? With a little salt and pepper shaker. Beautiful way to upcycle a salt and pepper shaker. When I found this, I knew it was going to be perfect to put on my shed outside with some solar lights. My solar lights are black though, like a matte black. So I'm going to spray paint this matte black, add the solar lights, and hang it on my shed outside. Sometimes it's nice just to upgrade your old salt and pepper shakers. So when I found these wooden ones, I grabbed them right away. It was $5.99 for this set, and they're solid wood in really good condition. They don't even look like they were ever used. I looked inside and they're nice and clean. So these are gonna go in my dining room and put to good use. This little set was looking really lonely at the thrift store. Looked like a cream and sugar set at one point, but the little sugar dish is missing. I had a brilliant idea. I'm going to take it up to my kitchen, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to use it for. A beautiful gold bowl I picked up for $2, and a votive holder that I also picked up for 50 cents. But we're going to remove this. We'll save it for another project. But these two are going to get incorporated together. We're going to glue them together. It's going to make a perfect serving dish that you never probably would have thought they would have looked good together. And this circle fits perfect around the rim. So it's exactly where it needs to be to glue together and have a good bond. If you're a lover of granny chic style, then this is your vibe. I couldn't believe when I found this at the thrift store. It's so adorable. I'm actually not going to do anything to it. It's in really good shape. There's no chips or cracks in the actual little beautiful woman. The bottom is maybe tarnished a little bit, but I like the look of that. The shade, that dusty rose, 80s color, fabulous. I did a reverse search on this to find out what it is worth. And it can range anywhere from like $50 to $150. They're really collectible because this granny chic craze is really big right now. So I'm not going to do anything to this. I am just going to find the perfect spot to put it in my home and enjoy it. Handmade blankets or throws are just a weakness for me, along with like linens and doilies. So when I found this for $6.99, somebody has spent ages making this, and it's beautiful, and I love the neutral color of it. I have the perfect spot for it up in my bedroom. So I'm going to show you where I'm going to tuck it in. Do you find candelabras or candle holders that get mounted on the wall all the time at the thrift store? I certainly do. So when I saw this, I knew that I could incorporate some teacups into it and turn it into something really fun. I found these. They were $1 each, and I'm not quite sure if anybody knows. It's got two handles. I wonder if they're a teacup or not quite sure. If you know, let me know in the comments. $1 each. We're going to clean these up. We're going to incorporate these two together. Wait until you see what I create. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky. I need somewhere where this is going to lie flat so I can put these little teacups on it without them sliding around. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to take off some of these paintbrushes off my back wall here and then hang it on the back wall, and that will give it a nice flat surface to put the teacups on and then have them not move around and dry overnight. Okay, I had to put my thinking cap on for this, but I think it's going to work perfect. We're going to put the E6000 around the rim. I'm going to add a little bit of that hot glue because we don't want that wiggling around. Just a little tiny dot. And then we're going to place it on there. This is tricky. This is very tricky, but I think we can make it work. Okay, let's do the other one on the other side quickly so it balances it out. Sometimes when we're doing these thrifting projects, we cross our fingers, we cross our toes, and pray a little bit that it's not going to break and it's not going to fall apart, because this is beautiful and I love these little mugs, so we want to make it work. There we go. Okay, I think we're good. We're going to just add the last one. And actually, I'm going to put that right on there. Oh, I'm going to have to redo this one because they were crooked and it was driving me nuts. So we're going to re-glue this. Make sure they're nice and even. That one looks good. This one looks good. Let's redo this one. And we'll be back. I have been looking for a lantern for my patio for quite a while, and I think I just found the perfect one. This was just really grubby and dirty. It lifts off. I just picked the solar light up at the dollar store. It's got a little switch on the back. We'll switch it on. And it's gonna fit. It fits amazing right in the bottom of it. I'm gonna set it outside in the sun, and when the sun goes down tonight, I'll show you how perfect this lantern is for $4.99 to have on my patio. China dishes are something that are in abundance at the thrift store, or a lot of people just have them tucked away in their cupboards and they're not using them. The first thing that I would say, if you have a set of China dishes, make a point to pull them out every week and at least eat one meal on them a week and enjoy them instead of just having them tucked away. But I also have some really great ideas of what you can do with them. My thrift store has fantastic China pieces, really reasonably priced. This set of 3 were $1.99, and these 2 candlesticks were also only $1.99. Now, one thing that you want to do before you start upcycling China dishes is do a Google search to make sure that they're not worth anything. We don't want to be changing these or gluing things together and then realizing we've got a prized possession that's worth a whole bunch of money. Every project that I'm doing today, I've done the research on, and they're not worth much money at all. Some of them may even have a few little cracks or chips, and they're perfect for upcycling. So today, because I have a set of 3, we are going to use some candlesticks. We're going to clean them up and use some E6000, and we're going to make a tiered dessert tray. When we're gluing China together, you want to make sure that you're using a really strong glue that's going to have a good bond. I really love E6000. There's lots of other products on the market that you can find at the hardware store, but I always have the E6000 on hand. Also, a little tip, put it in a toothpaste holder with a key because the E6000 is a bit of a bugger trying to get the glue squeezed out of the tube. And that way it eliminates that problem. And I also like to use my glue gun. So we're going to take one of these candlesticks. We are going to put some E6000 around the rim. And then I like to use just a little bit of hot glue. It just helps hold it in place so it doesn't wiggle around while we're waiting for that E6000 to dry. We're just going to use a little tiny bit, just maybe 4 little dots. And then we want to make sure that it's centered. That's really important. I've cleaned these really well, and I've actually even took a little bit of an alcohol swab and made it nice and clean so there's no grease or grit or anything like that on it. And we want to center it right in the middle. And then we're going to take our next size plate and we're going to take the E6000 again, put it around the rim. Again, we're going to center that really well. I like to get down nice and low and over top. I didn't put any hot glue on that one. I guess I probably could have. And you can stop here, but because I have 3 pieces, we're going to go in again with another candlestick. We're going to put on the E6000. You're going to be going to the thrift store now and have your eyes peeled on all the China dishes after you see all these projects that I'm going to show you of what you can do with the China dishes. Let's put a little bit of hot glue on that. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Center it right in the middle. That looks perfect. And then we're just going to put some glue on the top piece. And we have created a 3-tier dessert tray or hors d'oeuvre tray, or so many possibilities of what you can do with this. But they're beautiful when they're all done. We're just going to set this aside and we're gonna let it dry. I don't think you can ever have too many mirrors in your home, especially if you're putting together a gallery wall. This beautiful wooden frame was only $3. And the other thing that was actually really wrong with it is it looks like it had a string on the back. I think I'm gonna add a hanger and it's gonna be ready to display in my home for $3. Finding pottery at the thrift store is kind of like, for me, finding hand embroidered linens or doilies. I see somebody putting their heart and their soul into making it and putting their love into it, and then it just gets donated at the thrift store. I have a hard time leaving it. So when I found this, it's absolutely gorgeous. Someone has spent a lot of time and love making it, but it was in the garbage at the thrift store because there is a crack all along the bottom. They were just gonna throw it out. I think I can save it. We're gonna use some Gorilla super glue. And I think I can drop it and it's gonna soak into that little hairline crack and it's gonna strengthen it up. And we're gonna be able to put this in our home decor. This stuff is strong, but don't get it on your fingers. Why do you ask? Because I know from experience. And I think I'm just gonna, because that pottery is absorbent, I think it's gonna just soak right in. I just gotta get it going here. There we go. And I'm gonna force it into that crack. I mean, this doesn't have to be perfect. It's on the bottom side also, so we're not gonna see it. And honestly, it was gonna go in the garbage. So anything is better than nothing. Now, I didn't realize when I bought this one, this is the gel, and I think the liquid would have worked better, but this is definitely going to be pretty efficient. Okay, and then I think I'm going to try, because I have it's kind of built up a little bit. I'm gonna try a little piece of paper towel and see if I can wipe some of that off. Yeah, that works really well. We're just gonna set this aside and let it harden up and dry. I actually think this worked really, really well. I'm not gonna putter around with it too much, but it feels pretty sturdy. I think we saved this from the landfill, this beautiful piece of pottery. I'm gonna clean up the wax that was in the bottom. We're gonna put a new candle in it, and I'm gonna show you the glow that it gives off up in my home. We're on a roll with little tiered dishes, so I love being able to show you different ways that you can make them. Would, if you have some of these off of a light fixture and you have an old china plate or bowl, and you can incorporate the two together, and they're so beautiful. So we're gonna glue these together. Oh, and this plate, 99 cents, just gorgeous. We're going to take this off, we're gonna clean it up, and we're gonna glue these two things together. I was just thinking on the go as I was almost ready to put this together, and I thought, I'm not quite sure about just the glass color. So I remembered I had some yellow spray paint, and there's a little touch of yellow in this plate. So I'm gonna spray paint this yellow before we glue it together, and I think it's gonna kick it up a notch. Do you have those ugly, boring light switches in your home, just those white plates? I'm going to show you how you can make them beautiful with a picture frame. Next time you're at the thrift store, look for picture frames that are just a little bit bigger than your light switch. Take off the backing. We're going to take out the glass. We'll save that for another project. And then just take off the backing. This one's just put on here with some glue. Might take a little bit of elbow grease to get it off, but we're gonna peel it off. And then I'm gonna show you the magic trick to make your light switches look beautiful again. We'll be back as soon as I get all of this off. We got all the backing off, and now what we're gonna use is some double-sided tape. I grabbed this on Amazon. It is sticky and it works really well. I ripped the package actually getting it out originally because it is so sticky. But what's nice about it is it's also removable. So when you're done with it, it'll just peel right off your wall and it doesn't affect your paint underneath. So it's also renter friendly. And we're just gonna put some of this. We're just gonna cut a little bit and put it on all four sides. A generous amount because there are going to be people flicking the switches off and on, and we don't want this, if it gets hit, to fall off. This is such a pretty way to up your home decor in a room. And I think I paid $1.99 for this frame, so it's really affordable too. And then it has a backing on it. Sometimes it can be tricky to get it off, but we're just gonna peel it off. And then we're gonna take it up and we're gonna stick it on our light switch. You see a napkin holder staring at you on a shelf at the thrift store and you're like, I don't need any more napkin holders. I'm gonna show you how you can use this for something completely different other than napkins. This is great to grab these, put them in the kitchen, and they will hold a cookbook for you, or they'll also hold a tablet. If you bring up recipes on your tablet and you wanna keep it standing up, slip it into the napkin holder. It keeps it in place and allows you to scroll through and look at your recipes. If you're an owl lover, you're going to love this upcycle. I love finding salt and pepper shakers that are different themes: Christmas, Halloween, Easter, animals. And when I found these ones, the bottoms were missing. So I know they would be perfect to upcycle. We are going to turn them into ornaments, and we're gonna have a stash of ribbon that we're gonna use, and we're gonna make a couple tassels. We're gonna take the ribbon that we have. You can use twine, you can use whatever you have in your stash to make tassels. I actually have a full tutorial on how to make the perfect tassel. I'll put the QR code right here and also a link down below in the description, and you can watch that if you want a real in-depth tutorial on how to create beautiful tassels. But I'm just wrapping this ribbon around my fingers. I have some that's longer than others. That's perfect. Now we're going to take a length of wire. That looks pretty good right there. I make all kinds of these at Christmas with Christmas themed salt and pepper shakers, and anyone that I give them to absolutely loves them as gifts. So we're just putting the wire through the top of that ribbon, and we're going to just twist it really tight a couple times, probably 3 times. And now our ribbon is secured on that wire. We're going to now feed the wire through 2 of the holes in the salt and pepper. Takes a little bit of dexterity and good eyesight to see what you're doing. There we go. So we've got 1 through. Now, and this is nice because this wire is kind of flexible, so you can move it around where you need it. Let's put the other one through. There we go. That one went easy. And we're just going to pull it until the tassel is just sitting on the bottom of the salt and pepper shaker. I want to pull it a little bit snug inside just so it looks nice. And then you're going to twist your wire. And if you don't have any wire, you can always use twine and try it out that way. I've twisted it twice. I got a couple beads here. We're gonna string on. I've got a bead stash from when I was into jewelry making a few years ago. So I always have lots that I can go back and choose from. We're gonna thread 2 beads onto the top of it. And I also had this little necklace in my stash that we're going to use. And it's got a little loop there. So we're gonna put the 1 loop. We're gonna cut some of that wire off, use my pliers, and I'm gonna tuck that wire into the top of the bead so it's not gonna come loose. And we're gonna do the same on the other side. We're gonna tuck that second wire into the bead and wait until you see how cute these are. The last thing that we need to do is we're gonna cut the bottom ribbons all off. And of course, if you're using a twine, you can unravel it so it's got a nice full look to it. And don't forget to check out that video on how to do the perfect DIY tassel. We're just gonna trim this so it's all the same length. How stinking cute is that? From a salt and pepper shaker that I found at the thrift store. And I think this set was $1. And you can imagine if this was a Christmas themed salt and pepper and you could hang it on a tree for a gift. I hope that gave you some inspiration. I remember my grandma always having all kinds of these little china vases, and they're perfect for putting a little stem of a flower in. But what I like to do is find a candle and you can turn it into a candle holder. And how beautiful is that? You can set it out and display, let the candle be glowing in this little vase. And it's just a clever idea of how to use it other than just putting flowers in it. This little saucer at the thrift store, it didn't have a matching teacup. So what I decided to do was I found a candlestick holder, a nice little crystal one. And again, we're gonna get out the E6000. We're gonna be using E6000 a lot in this video, but there's gonna be so many unique ideas of how you can upcycle old china. We're just putting it all around the rim. We're gonna use a little bit of the hot glue to hold it in place. Now I think what I'm going to do with this one, instead of trying to place it like this, we're going to turn this upside down and we're going to place it like that so we can see exactly where it needs to go. We're going to set this aside and let it dry, and it turns into a perfect spot to keep your soap in the bathroom. Next time you see a wall shelf at the thrift store, don't pass it by. I found a clever idea to upcycle this and use it in a completely different way instead of hanging it on the wall, because you can flip it upside down. This is gorgeous. It's really ornate. And it's like a plastic. It's probably from the 70s, early 80s. But I have too many. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna turn it upside down, and you can fill it full of books and set it on a cabinet or on a counter and display your books this way, and it's going to keep them all in one place. Plus it's gonna be beautiful and ornate. Such a clever idea of how to upcycle these wall shelves, because they are a dime a dozen at the thrift store. I found this beautiful little plate, and it actually has a lot of colors that I have in my home, and you can simply just buy a little plate holder. I found this one at the thrift store. I think it was 25 cents, and you can display your plates in little nooks and crannies in your home. And it's such an easy way to upcycle some of these old plates, and you don't have to change anything. Just put it in and display. I wasn't sure what this dish was when I found it at the thrift store, and I actually had a lady beside me, and I showed it to her, and she said, oh, it's a spoon holder. And as soon as she said that, I realized, yeah, it is a spoon holder, obviously. And it's beautiful. I'm going to use it as a spoon holder. And then when I was looking on the back, it was actually made by Avon. So it was probably in their catalog back in the late 80s, early 90s. If you know anything about Avon, that would be interesting to find out some more about this piece. But it's gonna go on my stove, and it's gonna hold some spoons for me when I'm cooking. I found this little miniature, almost looks like a little table, riser. It's made out of plywood, so it's not really good quality wood, but it's been built really well. And it's sturdy. It's seen better days. It's stained. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a sand. We're gonna give it some spray paint, and we're gonna upcycle this so it doesn't get thrown out, and we're gonna turn it into something beautiful. I've got this all spray painted and it's dry. I just think it needs a little bit of distressing. So I'm gonna go in with some 80 grit sandpaper and sand around the edges, give it a rustic kind of farmhouse feel. I think that looks better than just being all black, just kind of distressed around the edges. So I'm gonna take it upstairs, and I think I'm gonna style it as a plant stand. This little girl is beautiful, but she's blue, and I don't have really anything blue in my home. It's not worth anything. There's not any markings on the bottom. So we're gonna give her a little spritz of some spray paint. Spray paint, where did that word go? Spray paint. And we're gonna make her beautiful so she's gonna fit into my decor. This is a really cute set of salt and pepper shakers, but the tops have kind of discolored a little bit, so they're great for upcycling. You want to make sure when you're doing projects like this to do some research first, because we don't want to be altering some salt and pepper shakers that maybe might be worth a little bit of money. And there are some out there that are. So just be careful before you upcycle anything or alter it to make sure that you're not ruining something that's worth some cash. So we're just going to remove the tops off of both of these. We're going to do the little purple one first. Here's a really clever idea. I picked this up at the dollar store. It's a reed diffuser. And you can use this little salt and pepper shaker as a reed diffuser container. This comes with the scent, and you can just pour it. Why do I always do this and not do this when I'm off camera? And then you guys have to watch me struggle while I try to open these and do a DIY project. But that's good. It had a little top in there so it didn't spill. We're going to pour that oil in the salt and pepper shaker. Add our reeds and tuck it in a corner where you want to have some nice scent go throughout your room. I found these two little china, I guess they're just little, this is an egg cup. This is just a little trinket dish, 25 cents. How could I not bring that home? But these are perfect to put at your kitchen sink if you're going to be washing dishes and you want to take your rings off or your jewelry. You can set it in there and they're not going to get misplaced, or put on your bedside stand. And the same with these little vintage egg cups. They would work well too for holding your rings and your little pieces of jewelry on either the sink or the bedside stands. So beautiful and can match your decor. If you don't like the colors they are, you can always put a little bit of spray paint on them, but I like these just the way that they are. I love finding really good quality trinkets that I can maybe put in a bookcase beside some books or beside a plant or a lamp. And when I found this one, I grabbed it right away. 50 cents. It's marked Bombay on the back. Made in India. It's really heavy, so I'm kind of thinking it's probably some sort of a metal, but I have a special spot for it in one of my cabinets in my dining room. I'm going to show you how I'm going to style it. Are you heading to a barbecue or a family dinner, or you've had some friends invite you over for dinner and you have to bring something? Head to the thrift store, pick up a beautiful platter or a bowl, and you can fill it up maybe with some cabbage salad that you're taking or some dessert, and wrap it in some saran wrap and then let them keep the bowl afterwards. I think that's a fantastic way to upcycle some of this old china. And this is such a beautiful bowl that I'm sure anybody would appreciate having it left in their house. And especially if you have a little bit of leftovers left in it, shove it in their fridge and let them keep it. Okay, I'm excited to put this together. I found this at the thrift store. Wasn't really sure what it was, but when I Googled it, it said that it was a soap dish and a hand towel stand, but it needed a soap dish. So I found this little piece of china. It was just a pure white little saucer and it fit on there perfectly. So we're gonna glue this together, and this is heading to my bathroom. I could tell this poor little girl was not going to leave the thrift store because she had lots of chips and pieces missing, but it's a big piece missing here. But I saw the potential in something really clever. I'm not going to paint it. I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm just going to embrace it as it is. I went out into my yard. I got some sand. We're going to fill it up with some sand. Of course, I'm going to make a mess because that's just how I roll. We're going to get rid of some of the pine needles in it. We don't need those. I'm going to kind of tap it gently. I think I need just a little bit more. And tap it again. going to do with this? I have all kinds of paintbrushes. This is a great way to store paintbrushes, but make them beautiful. Stick them into the sand. You can see exactly what they are. They look beautiful on a shelf. And you're upcycling a piece of china that otherwise was not probably going to get taken home by anybody because there's quite a bit of damage to it. I think it's beautiful and clever. What do you think? The little odds and unmatched pieces that you find at the thrift store also can be really great planters for propagation or for little plants you have. And if you want to make some drainage in a teacup, I have a full tutorial on how to drill through ceramic or glass. I'll put the QR code right here. We'll also put the link down below in the description so you can check that out if you're worried about drainage when you're putting a plant in one of these projects. But these little teacups and saucers look beautiful with a little plant in them. And this is probably a little sugar dish that's missing its lid. Again, great little spot to put a plant. Another one that's got a beautiful rose pattern. You can put a little plant in that one. Or if you just have a teacup that does not have a saucer, again, you can get a little votive holder and we can glue these two together and raise it up a little bit. We'll put some glue on here and set it aside and let it dry. I'm gonna plant all these up and I'm gonna show you how beautiful they can turn out. I found the cutest little frame. It's petite and dainty, and it almost looks like it's a handmade or a hand painted watercolor inside. I'm not going to take it apart and find out because I don't want to ruin it. But what I am going to do, I'm going to take the hanger off the back and I'm going to show you a clever, why am I having a hard time saying clever? I'm going to show you a clever way of upcycling these little frames when you find them. Do you need a pretty little spot to put trinkets and little bits and pieces? Take your, this is a mismatch set, but the two florals look beautiful together. We're gonna take some E6000. We're gonna put some around the rim of the bottom of the teacup. And then we are gonna flip this over, put the teacup in the middle, set it aside and let it dry. How can you use a china gravy boat, but not for gravy? I've got a clever idea. We're going to turn it into a candle. I have a wooden wick. We're going to put it together. We're going to put a little bit of hot glue on the bottom so we can stick the wick in the middle so it stays in place. I love the floral pattern on this. It's gorgeous, but we don't really need it as a gravy boat. So I have some water on the stove here. And I've got an old pillar candle that I'm not using anymore. I put it in a tin can. We're gonna put it in the water. We're gonna let it melt and we're gonna DIY a candle in our gravy boat. Our wax is all melted. We're gonna be really careful. We're gonna pull that hot wax out of the hot water. And we're going to pour it into our gravy boat. We're gonna set this aside and let it harden up, and we've made a DIY candle in a gravy boat. Another great way to upcycle teapots is to use them as a planter. I really love this one with the speckled white on it. And I don't want to drill a hole in it for drainage if someday I want to start using it as a teapot. But I found this little plant at our local greenhouse down the road. It's a gorgeous succulent. And instead of planting soil in this and putting some drainage in it, we're going to keep it in the original pot. This one's kind of tight, so I'm just going to go in with my scissors and I'm just going to cut down the pot just a little bit on 4 sides. This is going to keep all of the soil intact, but it's going to allow that pot to slip down into, this one's a little bit, there we go. It will allow it to slip down into that teapot a little bit further, so we don't have to plant it right in the teapot. We can squish it in. So that's a little hack. You can cut those little plastic pots to fit down snugger into your teapot. I love this. This is gonna find a spot right in my kitchen. Next clever way to upcycle a teapot is to turn it into a little sewing station. This is a gorgeous teapot that I picked up at the thrift store when I got the rest of them. But what I like about this is it's got a really wide mouth on it that's going to be perfect for this project. I've got some cotton material, some batten, a needle and thread, and we're just going to take our lid and we're going to cut out a circle about an inch and a half bigger than the lid. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be just a little bit bigger than the lid. And then we just have our needle and thread, and we're just going to go around the outside of that circle with the needle and thread until we get to the end. I've gotten to the end, and now we want to take a little bit of batten and we want to put it in the middle of that. You want quite a bit, so I would overfill it. And then we're just going to slowly just start to pull our thread together and get that all stuffed in there. And then we can just tie our thread off. I've got it all gathered together, lots of stuffing in there. We're going to use some hot glue. And then we're gonna push it right in the lid. So it's nice and secure in there. And it'll still fit on the teapot. And let's fill it up with some sewing stuff. So you can fill your teapot with a tape measure, some embroidery floss, some needles. You can fit in some thread. And if you have a tiny pair of scissors, these ones are the smallest ones that I have, so they don't really fit in there, but you can get the little sewing ones. But the funnest part is you can have this as your little pin cushion. Stick the pins in the top, and you can work away while you're sewing and not lose them. And you can also keep them nice and neat and tidy in your little teapot. I think this is a really handy upcycle to do with your teapots. How cute are these little salt and pepper shakers? They were 50 cents a piece, and the one has had his head broken off. It has been re-glued. It's not, these are not worth anything, but I'm gonna show you a really cute way that we can upcycle these. I have some spackling, and I'm just gonna use a little bit just to fill in those holes, just to cover them up. And then we're gonna set them aside and let that spackling dry. Put a little bit on the other one. Okay, this will just take probably about a half an hour. I'm gonna set them aside. We're gonna let them dry and we'll be back. The spackling is all dry. We're gonna give these a couple coats of this beautiful gold spray paint. And we have the cutest little golden geese. And these are perfect to tuck into a house plant. You can tuck it in like in with the leaves and it looks really cute. You can use it as decor in a cabinet or on a stack of books. The possibilities are amazing, and you can use so many different colors of spray paint. I love the gold on these. I think it was exactly what they needed, and such a fun way to upcycle some broken salt and pepper shakers. Next teapot project, we're gonna do an image transfer. And in order to have a really good image transfer, you can't use a smooth surface. So we're gonna do some painting on this. First, we're going to spray it with some primer, and then we're gonna go in with our homemade chalk paint. Our primer is all dry. Now we're gonna go in with our homemade chalk paint. If you have not seen my video on how to paint glass or ceramic and have no peeling, no chipping, you need to watch that video. I'll put the QR code right here and also a link down below in the description. It'll save you from messing up a project and having the paint peel off after you've put in all that time and effort. I also have tweaked my favorite chalk paint recipe. And this stuff is smooth, it dries rock hard, and it is fantastic. And I also have a video on that. I'll put a QR code right here and also down in the description. Try this recipe. It's a little bit of a tweak from the old standby recipe, and I like it more. It's really goes on nice and smooth. And I find sometimes with the chalk paint, that's the main drawback, is it's a little bit gritty and it's a little bit textured. This is not, and it doesn't budge when you put it on your DIY projects. We've almost got one coat on here, and I'm probably going to put 2 coats on this to make sure that I have really good coverage for the transfer. So we will see you back when this is all dry. Our chalk paint's all dry. We're going to do a Mod Podge reverse transfer on this little teapot. I have done all kinds of these transfers on my channel. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a really great way to take a graphic and put it on a DIY project that's super simple. All you need is some Mod Podge and a graphic printed off on just regular computer paper. It does work best with a laser printer, but if you're patient, you can have it work with an inkjet printer also. We're just gonna cut down the little graphic that I designed. It just says, "Be thankful," and it is available in my Etsy store. I also have it in our graphic club. So if you are a member, you can go over and you can grab this graphic right away. And I'll put the link to both my Etsy store and the graphic club down below in the description. Now we want to kind of trim this right up, kind of tight, because we're going around a circle. It's not a flat surface. So the more paper that we can remove and let it lie flat, the better transfer that we're going to have. Here's our little graphic. We're going to take our Mod Podge. This is Mod Podge matte. I find that it works the best for this type of a transfer. If you're using glossy, when you do your image transfer, it's gonna have a glossy finish, and I just find that it doesn't blend in very well. And the trick with this is, number one, don't get it all over your table. Number two, to not put very much on. You don't need very much. Just a light coat does the trick. And you wanna make sure you get right out to the ends. And then we're just going to take our graphic and we're going to place it right on the teapot where we want it. You have to make sure that you have reversed your text. If not, when you put it on, your words are going to be backwards, and we don't want that to happen. So reverse your text. You can do that in Canva, or you can do it in a Word program. There we go. So now the trick is just to set this aside, and you have to let it completely dry. A lot of times when I'm doing projects like this, I'm going to let them sit for 24 hours, and then we're going to come back and we're going to rub off the paper, and we're going to have a graphic on our teapot. Okay, we're back to rub the paper off of our teapot. I just have a little dish with a sponge and water, and you just want to dab that paper until the graphic just starts to show through. You don't want to put on too much water or it's going to lift the paint underneath. So just add a little bit, and then you're just going to take your finger and you're just going to start to rub away the paper. And as you do, the paper magically comes off and your graphic is left on your project. Just go slow. Don't use a lot of water. And sometimes this takes a little practice, but once you master it, it works fantastic. This also works best on a white painted surface. If you're trying to do this on a colored surface underneath, sometimes you're going to see the outline of the graphic because the Mod Podge does have a bit of a white color to it. So if you're doing something like this, plan on painting your project white, and it works much better. And just keep rubbing off that paper. You will know when you're done because you won't feel any paper rolling up underneath your fingers. If it gets a little bit of dryness, just dip your finger back in the water and keep rubbing. That feels pretty good. I think we've got all of the paper off. Now what you want to do is you want to seal it up. I'm going to use a spray polyacrylic sealer to spray this whole teapot. So it's water resistant, but it's not waterproof. And it's just going to give a nice sheen to your project and make it look more professional. And it doesn't get much cuter than this. I've got some clippings from a pothos plant that I'm putting in this, and this also makes a really great gift for someone. Now, this isn't going to be food safe now that we've painted it, but it definitely is a really beautiful piece of home decor just using a teapot that we found at the thrift store. This was $1. I love it. I think it's going to be a fantastic plant stand. I have a little ceramic pot. I know it's going to fit in here perfect. I'll display it probably maybe in my living room. So let's get a pot that's going to fit on this, and I'm going to show you how it turns out for $1. Unbelievable. Something else that you can use to make a little tiered dish is little wine glasses. This was a saucer that didn't have a matching teacup. We're going to put a little bit of glue on that wine glass, and wine glasses at the thrift store are a dime a dozen, all kinds of them, and they make really great risers. So that's what we're going to use on this one. We're going to turn the plate upside down. We are going to center it. Set it aside and let it dry. Now, here's another really clever idea. Again, we just took the top off and I've got some little cotton pads and we're just gonna get some essential oil and we're going to put some on that cotton pad. Got some beautiful smelling lavender. Stick it in the salt and pepper shaker. Put the lid back on and place this in a room somewhere where you want to have some nice scent from the essential oil. What I love doing with it is putting it in my truck, and I'll put it in one of the drink holders in the back seat, and it just makes your truck smell nice and fresh, and it looks pretty too. Do you love crafting with glitter but hate the little containers that they come with, and sometimes the holes are too small or they're too big? Grab a salt pepper shaker. And this is an old one that I think you used to see these a lot in restaurants. Take the lid off and get your glitter. Pour it in the salt and pepper shaker. Now I want to mix these two together. I've got some pink and I've got some purple. We're going to put the lid back on and give it a really good shake. Now you have a nice and tidy way to dispense your glitter evenly. And we've mixed those two colors together. That's made a gorgeous color. So this is a really clever way to upcycle some salt and pepper shakers. $1 for this. It's got beautiful angels all the way around it. And the little glass dish fits in the middle. It just needs a good cleaning. I think it's going to be perfect for maybe a votive, or I could put some water in it and float a little flower in it. It's gorgeous. For $1, I love finding little trinkets like this that I can kind of tuck in around my decor in my home. Next upcycle. How cute is this little pig? And when I was in the thrift store, I found him, but he had lost his mate. It was only one little pig. So we're going to give him a new home. And this is a really easy way to upcycle salt and pepper shakers. We're going to remove the little bottom, actually save these, because a lot of times when you're out looking for salt and pepper shakers, these are missing. So you can probably replace it with this one. So we'll set that aside. And I just went out to my garden and I got a stick. We've got our hot glue gun. We're going to put some hot glue on the end of that stick. And we're just going to put it in through that hole and just hold it until it sticks. We have a little pig on a stick. Well, that is so cute. And when you tuck this into one of your little house plants and have it peeking just out in between the leaves, they're so stinking adorable. And there's so many little animal salt and pepper shakers that you can find at the thrift store, or maybe you have in your cupboard tucked up away, that you can do this super simple, super easy way to upcycle a salt and pepper shaker. I found these little caddies before. This one looks like it probably had like 2 little spoons that hung from it. What I like to do with them is I like to turn them into propagation stations. So I'll just fill the glass up with some water. I'll put some cuttings in it, put it in a nice bright sunny spot. It's gorgeous and they keep them contained. You can find these really reasonable. I picked this one up for $3 and this glass is beautiful cut glass too. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to spray paint this because it has tarnished a little bit. It's not silver, it's just kind of rubbed off a silver plating. I'm gonna spray paint it gold and I'll show you when it's all put together. Another way I love to upcycle these is to keep your matches. This is just some wooden matches, and I have lots of candles in my home. So we're going to take them out of that ugly box. I picked these up at the dollar store. They're a lot cheaper than buying them off of Amazon. And put the lid back on. And then we want to cut out the strike pad. And we're going to then measure the bottom. We're going to cut it to the size that it's going to fit. I've got a hot glue gun here. We're going to put some hot glue on the bottom. Glue it. And you can set this beside your candle in your living room and have a really pretty spot to keep your matches. Another clever way to do with this is when you're camping, keep your matches in here. They're waterproof. Tuck them in your camping supplies and you've got matches ready to go. This is actually a really beautiful set of salt and pepper shakers and they were $2. But I have too many salt and pepper shakers that I'm using for salt and pepper. So I am going to show you how you can maybe perk up your spice cabinet or your spice rack with some salt and pepper shakers. I have a packet of ground ginger and they're always so hard to pour out and to even store and have them look nice. So I'm going to take this salt and pepper shaker and it's clean. There was nothing else in it before. I made a little paper funnel. We're just going to pour that ginger into the salt and pepper shaker. I love ginger. Ginger molasses cookies, one of my favorites. And we're just gonna fill up this little salt and pepper shaker. And salt and pepper shakers are something that you're gonna find at every thrift store. I went in and was trying to find a couple just to even film for this video. And I found all kinds. You're going to probably pay a little bit more for like the fancier ones. But if you are, those are the ones that are probably worth a little bit of money. So we don't want to upcycle them. And just finding plain ones like these, you can pick them up from anywhere from 50 cents to a couple bucks and do some of these upcycling projects. Okay, we've got our ginger in there. Now we want to label this. So we know ginger is in here. So I've made a little label. I just printed off the word ginger on my laser printer. I've got some packing tape. If you've been following along here, you've seen me do this technique probably quite a few times. It's so handy for making labels or for making stuff for your junk journals or your DIYs. It's a really cool technique. Unfortunately, it only works on a laser printer. It doesn't work on an inkjet printer. That's the only drawback with this. But if you do a lot of crafting, I would invest in a laser printer. Well worth the money. And they are not as expensive as they used to be. So we've just taken some packing tape and we've laid it over top of that label. And you want to press it really hard to get that paper with the laser printed word on it really bonded into that tape really well. We're going to cut off the extra. And if this is the first time seeing this, you wait for the magic. This is so cool. Okay, next step. Now we're going to take our little ginger sign and put it in some water. We're just going to let it soak for maybe 10 seconds. And what we're going to do is when we take it out of the water, we can start to rub off the paper. And the paper is going to come off, but the words are going to stay on the tape. And it stays sticky. I need to soak that just a little bit more in that corner. These are really great to organize your pantry or bins that you have, or label things in your kids' stuff. And of course, you can make them as big as a piece of packing tape. And you just want to rub off all of that paper. It doesn't take very much. And once it's dry, it is sticky again. And you can stick it on your little spice bottle. And now we know we have ginger in there. We can put it in our pantry. And it's good to go. And if you don't have a laser printer and you want to still label your little container, just cut the words off of the package. Try to do a nice square. And then you can just get a piece of packing tape, stick it on there, and then just cut around the edges. Just enough to leave some tape to stick to your spice jar or your salt and pepper shaker. And you have a great label that you can stick on the bottle. We're going to try and get this straight. There we go. So there's two different ways of labeling some salt and pepper shakers after you've put something other than salt and pepper in them. So we've got our ground ginger from the package, and then we have our DIY label that we made. Whenever I'm at the thrift store, I always go through the picture frames and see if I can find one that's just a little bit bigger with a light switch. This is a really clever way to upcycle these picture frames. This one was kind of falling apart. I'm going to take the back off. I'm going to scrape all of this off, and I'm going to show you how we can upcycle our light switches to make them look a little bit more fancy. This little picture frame was actually in a bin and given to me for free. I want to give it a little bit of a tooth to it so I can have some decoupage stick to the front of it. So I'm going to spray it with some primer first. We'll let it dry. Then we're going to get out our Mod Podge and we're going to use this beautiful napkin. Now that the primer is all dry on this frame, I picked out this napkin, which I love. And we're just going to take it down to 1 ply. I'm going to show you a little trick on how to get the plies apart. I got a little bit of Mod Podge. You can just put it in your finger and you can pull those 2 plies away. Really easy. I always save this napkin because I make my own decoupage napkins and I print on them. So we'll set this one aside. And I'm just going to kind of put this where I think it's going to look the best on the frame and decoupage it on. Now you can rip this apart in pieces and add flowers, but I kind of want to make it feel like it's all one piece and it's not been put together. So we're just putting on just some Mod Podge matte. You don't need very much. You just need a light coat, making sure that I'm getting right around the edges. And then we're just going to press that napkin into the picture frame, just like that. And we're going to press it down. I'm going to grab my scissors, cut off the extra now that we don't need. Wrap it around the edges. If you rip it, that's okay. You can always just kind of patch it as you need it. You always embrace the wrinkles when you're decoupaging. It's really hard to get a nice, smooth surface. I'm going to poke a hole through the middle here and cut each corner. and just press it in. So all you have to do now is just go along and add the Mod Podge on the top, pushing the napkin down as you go around the corners. And I'll finish this up and we'll be back when I'm all done. Our picture frame is completely dry. I love this napkin, it's so beautiful. I want to put a durable coat on the top. So I'm going to use some clear polyacrylic spray. Going to take it outside, I'm going to do that. And then I'll come back when everything's completely dry. My top coat is completely dry. Now we're going to flip it over, and I bought some double-sided adhesive tape. I always have this in my stash. It's really great for hanging up pictures or a project like this where you don't want to put nails in your drywall. And it's just what it says. It's a double-sided tape. We're going to take it. We're going to cut off a piece for each side. And what's really nice about this is when you want to move it or you want to change it, it will just pop right off your wall and it's not going to leave any damage to the surface. I'll put the link down below in the description for this product, and it's really affordable. And then you just have to peel off. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, but you want to peel off the tape on the top, as you can see, like that. I'm just going to peel off these 4 pieces, and I'll meet you at my light switch. These bigger salt and pepper shakers are also great for holding beads or buttons or findings. And they're great because you can see what's in them. And then they also look really beautiful when you put them on a shelf to display them. So you can fill it up with your favorite beads, put the lid on, and a great way to store jewelry making stuff. These are adorable salt and pepper shakers, and they've got a beautiful kind of shabby chic rose pattern on them. They are marked Stanford, made in England. I'm not going to alter these because they're beautiful. They are missing the bottom pieces, but let's do some place cards. I printed off my name. I've got some nice fancy scissors. We're going to cut out my name. I think this is a fantastic idea for a wedding if you wanted to label all of your placemats. Again, we just did the same thing with the wire. We wrapped it around. We have a circle. This one's got 3 holes in it, so we'll put that in there. And then you can just slip your place card in. This one, it only has 1 hole in it, and I don't want to drill any holes. I was thinking I could take a little piece of greenery and put it in the middle, but it kind of looks cheesy, I think, just because the hole is so small. I can't fit in any more than 1, but what do you think? It's kind of cute. Not sure about the little greenery. It might look nicer just having it beside it by itself, but I love this idea of turning them into little place cards. Another great way to upcycle teapots is to turn them into a little Kleenex holder. This teapot is gorgeous. I love the design on it, and I didn't want to alter it in any way. So I went upstairs to my bathroom. I got a box of Kleenex, and this isn't going to fit a whole box of Kleenex, but you can take a stack of them and just fold it up, put it in the teapot, pull out your Kleenex, and display it in the kitchen. How clever is that? Okay, I am a sucker for handmade doilies, and I have a thrift store not far from here that has all kinds of them. So I always pick up a couple every time I go there, and they never charge any more than 50 cents to $1. So I picked up these four, and I find with the doilies, I always feel they have a story to tell. Somebody has sat in the evening, maybe in a rocking chair, and crocheted these, and it's taken them hours and hours. And I just feel it's such a shame that they end up getting donated and not given the love that they deserve. This one is gorgeous and a big frill around the outside. I love adding them into my decor in my home or putting them under a plant stand. I picked this pink one up because I think it looks absolutely fantastic underneath my lamp that I scored. So let me know down in the comments. Are you a sucker for vintage doilies or linens? Let me know. I couldn't believe I found this at the thrift store for 50 cents. It's got a hand-drawn portrait on a piece of paper. The frame is brass. Look at the back of it. It's got a gorgeous little stand on it. I'm not taking it apart. I'm even going to keep the portrait in it because I think it's just beautiful and someone has taken so much time. There's no markings. There's nothing on it. If there's anybody out there that might know the date or the age this could be, it's gorgeous. And I was so happy to find it and add it into my home. Another really clever way to upcycle a teapot is to hold yarn, ribbon, string, and it's really easy. I just took some painter's tape and I just put a little bit on the end of my twine that I have here and just feed it through the spout. And you're gonna keep your twine ball in the teapot and you're gonna be able to pull it out and not have it get tangled. This is great for anyone that knits or crochets or just to keep all of your ribbons nice and neat and tidy. So that's one reason why you should pick up a teapot at the thrift store. This is going to be the cutest upcycle. I'm going to turn this teapot into a wind chime. What you're going to need is you're going to need a teapot, you're going to need some cutlery. I just picked up some spoons and you're going to need a little plate, but you want to have the perforated edge on it so we can hang our chimes for them. I found this at the dollar store. It was $4.99 and we are going to glue the plate onto the bottom of the teapot. Now you want to make sure that it's running down, so if it rains, the rain will flow off of that little plate. We're going to use our E6000. And like I said before, love-hate relationship with this. It works fantastic, but it is a pain to get it out of the tube. If anybody has a better product that they like to use, just let me know down in the comments, because I am open to trying something different that works better. And also, while I'm doing this, have you subscribed to my newsletter? I have a fantastic newsletter that goes out a couple times a week, and it's full of inspiration, DIY tips and tricks. And there's also free graphics every week that you can download and you can use on your crafting projects. So if you haven't signed up, we would love to have you over there. You can click this QR code right here, and we'll also have all the information down below in the description. Okay, we've got this E6000 flowing now, and we're going to take our plate. We're gonna, oh, I didn't take this price tag off here. Let's take that off first. There we go. And we're gonna center our teapot right in the middle. And then we're gonna set it aside and let it dry completely. We're gonna drill some holes in spoons. I just picked up a handful at the thrift store and I just put them on the table and I got looking through them and look at this spoon. I'm not gonna drill through this one because I'm going to do some research on it. I'm not quite sure why it's shaped like this, and it definitely is silver. That one's not getting drilled through. We're going to put this one aside. I'll let you know what I find about it. So these you just want to turn upside down. I have a block of wood, and set your spoon in it, and I've just got a drill bit in here that does wood and metal. We're just going to find a center spot and just start drilling. It takes a little bit of pressure, but it doesn't take very long to get through this spoon. And we've drilled a hole through the spoon, and as you can see, it works great. I'm going to go through and I'm going to drill holes in the rest of these spoons. The bottom base has dried on the teapot, so now we're going to work away at stringing some beads on these spoons that we drilled the holes in. I got a stash of beads that I've had for years when I went through my jewelry craze, and I have some fishing line that's just going to be weather resistant, and it's going to hold up if it's going to be outside. And we're just going to cut a length and start stringing some beads on these. I've got 2 that are done already, and I'm just kind of doing them in the same order, color coordinated, so they look really nice. We're just going to string the fishing line through that spoon, and I like to tie about 3 knots because then we know that it's going to stay on there nice and secure. Perfect. Now we can get putting our beads on. Okay, we've got one done. I'm going to work away on the other ones, and we'll be back when they're all put together. I got all the beads on the spoon. They're really cute. And now we're just going to go through the little holes that we have on this plate. So that's why it was important when I was out thrifting to look for a plate that had holes in it or little spots where we can kind of put through that fishing line. And then we're just going to tie a knot, and we're going to hang those spoons from that plate. And the fishing line we'll just tie in 2 or 3 knots to make sure that it's nice and secure. And we're going to evenly space those spoons out around the plate like this. Trim off the edges, and I'll show you when it's all finished. We'll take it outside and we'll hang it up. Now there's probably lots of different ways that you can hang this, but I think I'm going to use some wire. I had some in my stash. You could use twine, you could use some chain if you had some, but I'm just going to push this wire through the teapot and make a twist on the end so it's not going to come through that spout. You can just twist it up and make a few so it's not going to come through. And as you can see, the teapot has little holes in there. I don't know if you can see in the camera or not, but that's going to keep the wire from coming through. And then we're just going to loop it around and attach it onto the handle. And again, we're going to go around maybe a couple times. And then just wrap the wire around the top. And that's going to be really sturdy, and it's not going to break and fall out of whatever you're hanging it on. And I think I'm also going to glue the lid on too with some E6000. So if it does get windy, it's not going to fly off and break. But we've got all of our spoons attached. How adorable is that? Let's head outside and hang this up. Before you upcycle any teapot, one good thing that you should probably do first is do a Google reverse search and make sure that your teapot isn't worth any money, because some of them are kind of collectible and we don't want to be changing these into something else when they might be worth something that you could resell. So I have done that with all the teapots that I'm working today, and none of them are really worth all that much. But another great idea that you can turn teapots into is a bird house or a bird feeder. And this one we're going to turn into a bird feeder. I just went and got a twig out of my garden that fits in the spout really well. And I've got my hot glue gun. We're just gonna add some hot glue on that stick. I'm also gonna add some right in the spout. And we're just gonna stick that twig in. It's just gonna give the little birds just something to perch on when they're getting ready to eat some of the bird seed. And that's gonna set up really nice in there. And I just have some bird seed that I bought at our local hardware store. And we're just gonna fill up our teapot. And you want to put just enough seed in so when you're tipping it up that it's going to be enough in there for it to have a nice little snack for our birds. We're going to take this outside and I'm going to hang it up in one of our trees. Nothing better than finding a gorgeous mirror for $2.99. It's really dusty, it needs a good cleaning, but it is heavy. The mirror's kind of got a bit of a beveled look to it, but when I flipped it over, it's got like a wooden backing to it, and it says made in England. It's got a really sturdy change holder. I think this is probably really good quality. I have the perfect spot in my home where I want to put this, and what a fantastic find. This is a handmade mirror. It's really solid, heavy pine, and I love it. I'm not gonna paint it. I'm gonna leave it as is. The mirrors need to be cleaned up a little bit, but I have the perfect spot for it. I have this blank wall in my kitchen, and the previous owners had actually screwed in some holes into the oak. And I don't want to do that, but it's really plain. So I think I'm going to put this up there, and I'm going to use the double-sided tape, and it's going to really hold it up there, and we're not going to have to screw any holes.